What's going on, drivers? How's everybody doing this evening? Got some footage here from out west. The last time I was out west, it's going to be a little bit of Donner Pass, a little bit of a Tejon Pass, or Grapevine, as most call it. But I got an email from Stevens Transport. We're going to get in that in just a moment. First off, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. We do everything here trucking related. Welcome to Trucking with Old Snapper, and I am Old Snapper. But anyway, let's get into this email from Stevens Transport. First and foremost, as a disclaimer, when I speak of Stevens Transport, I speak about when I worked there and my personal experiences there. I left there 2013, I think 2013 is when I left there. I worked there for just over 4 years. 1 year as a company driver, and the rest as a lease operator for them. At that time, I don't believe they had lease purchase. You could purchase a truck. They had a separate program, but they had a regular lease, and that's what I did was that lease. So keep that in mind when I speak of Stevens Transport. I'm speaking just from my personal experiences from back in those days and that time. Some things may have changed, but this may give you some idea of what questions you need to ask if you're thinking of going there. Anyway, they sent me this email right here. $90,000 a year as a trainer. I gotta say that is a little bit more than Stevens used to pay. But at the same time, I'm solo where I'm at and do over 100 a year. So, you're gonna share your truck and make less money. So that's one disadvantage. But I will say this, I'm gonna start out on the positive side. There are things I do miss about Stevens Transport. One of the things I miss is the trucks. They have some of the nicest trucks in the industry, and that's hands down. All the bells and whistles on them, really comfortable riding trucks, APUs, all that. The other thing I miss about Stevens Transport is they have really good freight lanes. I used to go to the Northeast a lot, but I was never stuck in the Northeast. You'd go there, come out, go out west, go to the Midwest, go back Northeast, go down south, go to Florida. You were all over the country. They had plenty of miles. I used to pick up in Laredo, run up to Salinas, California, or run up Bakersfield, California. Drop, deliver somewhere around there, sometimes down in LA. Then I'd run up, depending on what side of produce season we were in. If it was summer produce, you'd run up to NorCal, Salinas, up in that area. If it was winter produce, you'd run out to Yuma, Arizona. Or sometimes run down to Brawley, California, and pick up meat. And those loads we used to pick up out there, and sometimes go all the way to Cheshire, Connecticut, or Virginia Beach, or down to Miami if it was Whole Foods, and sometimes it'd run down to Miami. So they had hellacious miles. Those things I do miss about Stevens Transport. Now I'm going to get into what I don't miss about Stevens Transport and why it would be pretty difficult to get me back over there. Which, by the way, I think one of their recruiters watches my YouTube, because they emailed me on my American Truckers United email address. And I didn't even have that email address back then. So I'm assuming this is where they got it from. So if you're watching, listen closely. The things I don't miss about Stevens Transport, well, number one, they say $90,000 a year. Well, back when I worked there, they were claiming $40,000 a year, and it was actually closer to $20,000. All right. Yeah. Figure that one out. When they were claiming, I think the last couple years I was there, they were claiming 60 or 70,000. My best year was 56 leasing. And that's not 56,000 to the truck. I hate when drivers are leasing and they say, well, I made 250 to the truck. Look, I made 180 to the truck and only took home 56. So don't give me to the truck numbers, because give me your what you brought to the house numbers. And that's not even what I brought to the house. I had to pay taxes out at 56. At 56 was my taxable income. for my best year at Stevens Transport. So, drivers, you got to watch how these drivers word it, because you'll hear them say, well, I bring $250,000 home. I bring $250,000 to the truck. Yeah, you might bring $250,000 to the truck, but how much of that did you take home? How much of that was taxable income? How much of that after your truck payment, insurance, fuel, all that kind of stuff? Because I was doing 180 to the truck, and by the time truck payment, fuel, everything came out of it, insurance, all the stuff you had to have, I was 56, my best year. So keep that in mind. But here's the other thing. They're claiming 90,000. It's probably closer to 70. Just from my experience with Stevens Transport, it's probably actually closer to 70. Probably maybe 10% of their drivers are doing 90, and those guys and girls are not going home. That's probably why they're doing 90. I will say this about Stevens. You always have a student. You're never waiting on a student. They got plenty of them. They used to hire between 50 and 60 people a week back when I was there. And at that time, we only had 2,000 trucks. So if you do the math, they were hiring more people in a year than there were trucks. That's how big the turnover was. So, yeah, they always had students. I will say this, though. I don't know who's doing the matching with the students now. But back in those days, they didn't match students worth of crap. They didn't care. It was first in, first out. You could get anybody. Now, they typically at Stevens would stick males with males, females with females. I never trained any females at Stevens. I trained females at other companies. Stevens was pretty strict about what males they were going to allow train females, and I wasn't one of them. But I trained a lot of guys over there, and I met a lot of people. Met some really cool ones. Met some that I don't really care for. Met some that watch my YouTube today. That were really good guys back in those days, man. I had a lot of fun out on the road with them. And I do miss training. I enjoy training. And I know it's something that a lot of guys don't like to do, but I really enjoyed it. Now, I'm going to roll this window up. Some of that noise out. Now, that being said, I'm not trying to deter you from going to Stevens Transport. You just need to, think it through. You might want to talk to some drivers and verify that that's what they're making. Some of the other things I didn't like about Stevens was every 90 days I had to go to the yard. Back then you had to go to the yard every 90 days and you had to clear the yard. You had to see safety, see logs, see compliance, get out. They gave you this clearance sheet when you went through the guard check. Everything on that clearance sheet had to be signed off and you had to be cleared before you could go back out. It really sucked because the way it always seemed to work out was right when I was ready to go home. I'd be in the cycle for going home. Well, I'd go to the yard. It'd take 2 or 3 days to clear the yard. Well, now I screwed that week up. Well, I didn't want to go home on a no money week and then not make no money the next week. And I was leasing. So that would put me in the hole and take me 6 weeks to try to catch back up. So I'd have to go back out, run, make up for that week that I spent, or that, my bad week at the yard, and then try to make it up. I didn't like that. That was probably my biggest complaint with them. Another thing I didn't like is many times I delivered in Dallas, but I didn't want to go to the yard. Because at Stevens Transport, if you go to the yard, you have to go through the guard check to get in, and they give you a clearance sheet. So you can't even pull in there and stay the night without getting a clearance sheet. You pull on that yard, you're not getting off of it until that clearance sheet's signed. I didn't like that either. Like where I work at now, we got 12, 13 terminals across the country. I can pull on any one of them, stay the night, and never see a person. And it's great. I mean, I go inside, grab a shower, and I know I got a safe place to park when I'm in those parts of the country. And with Stevens, that wasn't the case. Actually, when I first left Stevens, anywhere I went to work, I would avoid going to the yard like the plague. because I expected to go through the same thing I went through at Stevens, which just isn't true. I will say another thing I kind of liked about Stevens is they got a safety lane. And every time you go in the yard, you go through the safety lane. So, depends on which mechanic you got out there. It's going over your truck. But they may catch something that you have missed. They stay on top of their trucks. I never worried about a DOT inspection ever when I was with Stevens. Not leasing and not as a company driver. I did not ever worry about a DOT inspection. So, I mean, it's got its good and it's got its bad. But you just want to keep that in mind. I was just really shocked that they sent me an email, me of all people. Like, are you out of your mind? I mean, they might want a YouTuber over there maybe, but I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell the truth, you know, and when things are bad, I'm going to air it out right here like I normally do when I get frustrated out here on the road. So you might want a different YouTuber. You may not want me. But anyway, I am glad they are paying more, because they are paying more than what they used to pay. And I'm glad that some of the guys over there are happy. Now, if I did live in the Dallas area, I probably would have loved it over there, because I would have gone home a couple times, and they deliver in Dallas quite a bit. And then every 90 days I would have gone home too, because I would have stayed at the house as I was clearing the yard instead of being at the yard all day and then in my truck in the evenings. But anyway, I appreciate y'all stopping by. Y'all take care. Stay safe. Stay out of trouble. Remember, we are all family out here, and keep trucking.